Shadows of Deception. Chapter 4. The Edge of Betrayal. Night cloaked the city as Elena, Isabella, and Carlos approached the dilapidated warehouse by the docks. The scent of salt water mingled with the pungent aroma of fish, creating an atmosphere thick with tension. "Are you sure about this?" Isabella whispered, her eyes darting nervously. "We need solid evidence," Carlos affirmed. "This is our best chance." They slipped inside through a side door, the creak of rusty hinges echoing ominously. The interior was dimly lit, shadows stretching across stacks of crates labeled with various shipping companies. "Stay close," Carlos instructed, leading them deeper into the labyrinth of containers. They came upon a makeshift office, papers strewn across a desk. Carlos began sifting through the documents. "Look at this," he said, holding up a ledger filled with coded transactions. Elena scanned the pages. "These codes match the ones in my father's ledger." Isabella pointed to a name scrawled in the margins. "Victoria Alvarez." Elena's heart sank. So she is involved. Before they could process the information, footsteps approached. "Someone's coming," Isabella hissed. They ducked behind a stack of crates just as Miguel entered the office, followed by Victoria and, to their shock, Alejandro. Elena's breath caught in her throat. "What is he doing here?" she mouthed silently. The trio began discussing in hushed tones, unaware of their audience. "We need to accelerate the plan," Miguel asserted. "They're getting too close." Victoria nodded. "Agreed. The shipment must leave tonight." Alejandro crossed his arms. "I'm not comfortable with this. We never agreed to harm anyone." Miguel scoffed. "Don't grow a conscience now. We're in too deep." Elena exchanged a worried glance with Carlos. This was bigger than she had imagined. Suddenly, Isabella stood up, revealing herself. "I knew it!" Elena grabbed her arm. "What are you doing?" But it was too late. The trio turned, shock registering on their faces. "Isabella?" Victoria exclaimed. "You're all traitors," Isabella accused, her voice shaking with anger. Miguel's eyes narrowed. "Well, this complicates things." Alejandro stepped forward. "Elena, what are you doing here?" She emerged cautiously. "We came to find the truth." Victoria sighed. "You shouldn't have gotten involved." Carlos moved protectively in front of Elena. "It's over. We have enough evidence to expose you." Miguel laughed coldly. "You think it's that simple?" He signaled, and armed guards appeared from the shadows, surrounding them. "Drop any weapons," one of the guards commanded. Carlos slowly raised his hands. "This isn't necessary." "On the contrary," Miguel replied smugly, "it's entirely necessary." Isabella glared at Alejandro. "How could you betray us?" He looked conflicted. "I was trying to protect you all." "By smuggling artifacts and endangering lives?" Elena challenged. Victoria stepped in. "You don't understand the bigger picture." "Then explain it to us," Elena demanded. Victoria exchanged a glance with Miguel before nodding. "Fine. The artifacts we deal with are dangerous in the wrong hands. We're ensuring they don't fall into them." Carlos scoffed. "By selling them on the black market." "By controlling their distribution," Victoria corrected. "It's a necessary evil." Elena shook her head. "That's just an excuse." Miguel grew impatient. "Enough talking. We need to decide what to do with them." Alejandro held up a hand. "Wait. Let me handle this." He approached Elena. his eyes pleading, "Please, trust me. I can fix this." She met his gaze evenly. "Trust is earned, and you've lost mine." Before he could respond, a commotion erupted outside. Sirens wailed, and lights flashed through the grimy windows. Carlos seized the moment. "That's my backup. It's over, Miguel." Panic flashed across Miguel's face. "You set us up." He lunged towards Carlos, but Alejandro intervened, tackling Miguel to the ground. "Get out of here!" Alejandro shouted to Elena and Isabella. The guards hesitated, unsure of their next move as law enforcement surrounded the building. Victoria grabbed a hidden exit key. "This way," she urged Miguel. He shoved her aside. "I'm not going anywhere without the shipment." "There's no time," she insisted. As chaos ensued, Carlos guided Elena and Isabella towards an exit. "We need to go now." They dashed through the maze of crates, emerging into the cool night air. Officers swarmed the area, arresting the guards and securing the perimeter. Elena turned back, concern etched on her face. "We can't leave Alejandro." "He made his choice," Isabella said bitterly. Carlos gently steered her forward. "We need to focus on our safety." In the aftermath, Miguel and Victoria were apprehended. Alejandro surrendered willingly, his expression resigned. Days later, Elena sat in a quiet corner of the estate's garden, the scent of jasmine enveloping her. The weight of recent events pressed heavily upon her. Isabella joined her, carrying 2 cups of tea. "Mind if I sit?" Elena nodded silently. They sipped their tea in companionable silence before Isabella spoke. "I owe you an apology." Elena looked at her questioningly. "For what?" "For keeping things from you," she admitted. "I thought I was protecting you." "We both made mistakes," Elena acknowledged. Isabella took a deep breath. "I've always felt like I was living in your shadow. I wanted to prove myself." Elena reached out to squeeze her hand. "You're my sister. We should be supporting each other, not competing." A tear rolled down Isabella's cheek. "Maybe we can start over." "I'd like that," Elena said softly. Their moment was interrupted by Carlos approaching. "Elena, may I have a word?" She stood up. "Of course." He led her to a secluded area. "I wanted to let you know that the investigation is wrapping up. Thanks to your help, we've dismantled a significant smuggling ring." She nodded. "But at what cost? My family is shattered." He looked at her sympathetically. "Sometimes doing the right thing comes with sacrifices." She met his gaze. "What happens now?" He hesitated. "I'll be reassigned, possibly to another city." Her heart sank. "Oh." He took her hands in his. "But I don't want to leave things unresolved between us." She swallowed hard. "I don't either." They stood there, the unspoken words hanging between them. Finally, he leaned in, and they shared a tender kiss. Pulling back, he smiled softly. "No more secrets." She smiled in return. "No more secrets." Meanwhile, Alejandro awaited trial. Elena visited him in custody, needing closure. He looked up as she entered, surprise flickering in his eyes. "Elena." She sat across from him. "I needed to see you." He sighed. "I don't expect forgiveness." "I'm not here to condemn you," she said gently. "I want to understand." He leaned back. "I got caught up in something I thought I could control. I wanted to protect you, but I lost sight of what's right." She studied him. "I wish things were different." Me too, he agreed. After a pause, she stood up. I hope you find peace. He nodded. Take care of yourself. As she left, a sense of finality settled over her. Back at the estate, Isabella was packing a suitcase. Where are you going? Elena asked. I've decided to travel, she explained. Clear my head, figure out what's next. Elena hugged her tightly. Promise to keep in touch. I will, Isabella assured her. With her sister embarking on a new journey and the remnants of her former life dismantled, Elena faced an uncertain future. But for the first time in a long while, she felt a glimmer of hope.